Hi everybody on YouTube. This video is about how a lot of people who don't know about MAV, never heard of MAV, confuse migraine associated vertigo with what they consider a typical migraine. Well, sure, it's a migraine condition, but it's so much worse than a typical migraine because of how you get so dizzy and so sick, and it can literally hit out of the blue and you collapse sometimes with it. Everything goes out from under you. With me and my MAV, when I get a really severe attack, I just go down with a thud, like a limp rag doll. And that's not how people typically envision migraine. But the title, Migraine Associated Vertigo, is very confusing to a lot of people, including doctors and nurses. Also, my experience with MAV is that the typical migraine drugs don't work for it, at least not with me, anyway. Had no results at all with Imitrex or any of the others. So I also get the typical migraine headache with this as well, don't get me wrong. But I would have to say this is so much worse than the way a typical migraine works. So much worse. Yeah. Imagine walking down the street and suddenly out of the blue you can't see because you get one of those wonderful migraine auras but without the headache. Suddenly you walk down the street and can't see. And people look at you like you are flipping nuts, like you are crazy. They don't understand that. And there's no headache at the time. A lot of times, with me anyway, with my MAV, the headache comes later, much later. Like an hour or more later, sometimes hours later, the headache will finally hit with the typical migraine symptoms that most people understand about migraine. Or imagine walking down the street and suddenly out of the blue you're incredibly dizzy and you start throwing up. Just out of the blue. And imagine trying a lot of different medications and nothing works. And you start trying lots of herbs and alternative medications. It doesn't work. You've tried chiropractics. I ran up a huge chiropractic bill. No help at all. Zero help. And you go from doctor to doctor to doctor, and they're at a loss, and what makes it worse is some of them tell you that you're crazy, and some of them try to lock you up in psych wards in the hospital, thinking that you've flipped your lid, when really you haven't flipped your lid. There's really something physically going on, and it's not a mental disorder. Absolutely not. And you go from doctor to doctor and they've never heard of migraine associated vertigo, and so they really can't help you because it's something they have never heard of. But with a typical migraine, if it runs the way a migraine normally runs, most doctors have heard of that. Most people have heard of it. Most emergency room doctors have heard of it. Paramedics and whatnot, they've heard of your, quote, typical migraine. But MAV, they're clueless. So they end up running all these tests and stuff, and they all show normal. MAV does not work, as far as symptoms are concerned, does not work just like your typical migraine. It's so much worse. And this is coming from someone who has had migraine headaches in the way most people understand it, as well as all these other symptoms, and that's why it's called MAV, Migraine Associated Vertigo. It is just appallingly and shockingly horrible. More horrible than a lot of people can possibly imagine. Guys out there, please stop confusing migraine associated vertigo with migraine. Thanks very much for watching and have a great day.